Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, whenever you view this video. Um, what I want to talk about is a couple of things real quick with tennis. I'm a tennis fan, and I play recreationally from time to, a little bit from time to time. Anyway, one of the things I want to say is this. I mean, Serena Williams wins her 23rd Grand Slam singles title in the women's tennis. The argument today is whether or not this could have been done if there was a Graf or a Henin or a Kleister or Hingis still hanging around. Tennis, for those who understand the sport, know and who watch it and who are fans of it, know that there are a compound of things that play into the careers of tennis players. Because it's a single sport and not a sport like basketball, which is a collaboration of players, or football, which is a collaboration of players, or baseball, which is a collaboration of players. It is a single person sport, meaning it all depends on that individual. And there's a lot of things that can play into the longevity of a player's life in the sport of tennis, professional tennis. Okay? Because to compete at that level, you have to, first of all, be physically fit to play at that level. Now, the argument is that women don't have to play as many sets as men. Women play 3 sets, men play 5 sets. Of course, you have to definitely be physically fit to play any sport at top shape or at the best shape possible to be competitive. But to be the absolutely elite, you're going to have to definitely do something a little bit differently, or either be gifted with the athleticism to compete above those who are playing at your level. Because anybody who's played a sport knows that as the higher you go in a particular field of career, the tougher it gets. It starts to thin out. There are hundreds. Okay, at the professional level of tennis, I think they have a list of 100 players that can make the top pros. You never hear, mostly, you never hear about any of them who are still in anything under the 20 top 20 list. A lot of times you'll get a few players that make it there to maybe the tournament and might even break through like they did that one year, about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whatever, when that one player, I forget her name, came out. She was like ranked 30 something, 40 something, and she beat Serena to stop her from going into the US final open to try to reach her 22nd, I believe, match. But anyway, she should have did it then, Serena. But apparently there were some things going on. She was distracted. These things happen in tennis with players because they're human. But anyway, that's a choice that they have to live with. That's a consequence that they have to live with. Now, I think Graf had retired already at 30 and had already won her 22. Tennis was exceptionally, to say and to minimize the players or the era, because to say some people were saying on the internet that, oh well, Serena didn't have to play against the tough players like Navratilova or Graf or uh, uh, I'm trying to think, Everett. Everett Everett played way before Serena. Anyway, she's much, much older than Serena. So they weren't even, I don't even think Serena probably wasn't even thought of at the time in the 70s. And so to suggest that, oh, the era is weak, it's a farce. It's ludicrous, really. You know, she had to play against great players even when she first came in '95. And she was tough then, but yet she didn't win. And in fact, I think she played. I can't even think of the girl's name right now. She played. I know she played Hingis. She lost against Hingis, but she also beat Hingis. In fact, she beat Hingis at the 90. I think in '95. Was it? I could be wrong. Anyway, to win her first Grand Slam. She's also played, I forget the girl that got stabbed. A young woman that got stabbed. I forget her name, but she was a great tennis player herself. Because I remember she was really, really good. But Serena played her too. And beat her too. And lost to her, but beat her too. So I'm trying to figure out who these racist individuals that talk about the Williams sisters in the way that they do. You know, you're trying to say, what's your point? You're trying to minimize the talent that she has. I mean, you just don't win. And look. Navratilova, Chris Evert were rivals in their day. And they were very good tennis players as well. Another thing is, you know, they talk about the looks of the Williams sisters. Okay. They're not going to be Miss Universe. But, you know, I've seen worse. And I don't think they're, you know, terribly, like, just unlookable at. I mean, they have their moments where sometimes they, Serena's gotten bigger over the years because I think she lifts weights a little bit. I think she does do a little weightlifting with her, nothing real serious, and she's always been thick. Anyway, and Venus is just a tall girl, which she's always been. They're both tall. They get this from their parents, okay. But anyway, because they're baseline players, I don't really like their kind of one-dimensional game. But they do have a lot of power, and it works for them. Me personally, I like a person who plays with a variety of things, slices, a little bit of finesse, someone who knows how to slow the ball down when it's being hit by a heavy hitter, someone who knows how to slice the ball at times when it's unexpected. A Federer. In other words, I love Federer. He's just a legend, and not because he's a great winner, but because I remember in Wimbledon when he knocked off Sampras, that showed greatness in Federer. And I was a big fan of Sampras. Me and Sampras are around the same age. I would have played, if I had made it into tennis as a professional, I would have played in his era because I'm around his age. I'll never forget, he was the one that actually on the cover of Sports Illustrated, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated back in 1990, bursting onto the scene with his great serve, explosive serve, heavy serve, and I was a big fan of Sampras, and in fact in college I wanted to play tennis, and the year that I went in to play as a freshman, guess what happened? They cut the program. My historical black college that I went to cut the program. So anyway, but I'm a lefty, like Nadal, and I would have played as a lefty had I played tennis as a profession. But of course, that was just a dream of mine. But what I'm saying is, people minimizing the Williams sisters' talent. They're very talented women in tennis, and you can say you don't like their game or their style of play. They play bass. They play the bass line. They hit real heavy. Do I like their style of play all the time? It fits at certain, depending on the type of players that they're playing. But no, I don't always like their play. When they first came out, I said, "Oh man, these girls are gonna be bad," because I thought maybe they would have learn to do a lot of variety. Sloane. Now Sloane is a young black female American who was coached by Agassi early on in her career. Andre Agassi, one of the greats of the era of the 80s and uh, most of the 90s and a little bit of the 2000s, because he played like Federer and late into his 30s. I think he was like 38, 39 when he retired. But anyway, I think Federer's going to do the same thing. He's going to retire probably around that age. Usually you do great to do anyway. But anyway, Sloane, she is, I love her game. She really has talent, but she does not have the mentality. Her mentality's like Kyrgios, or I can't think of his name. He looks like he could be mixed or something. But he's from Australia, and his mentality is not there to play the game at the level of Federer or Nadal. He doesn't have a championship mind mentality. He doesn't like tennis, and tennis is pretty much 20% mental, and the other 80% is your ability and or your skills. 80% your skills, 20% mental, and 80% your skills. And what I mean by that, you gotta have a tough mentality, because everybody at that level can play well. There have been people who are tennis players who have come out of obscurity who ranked 38, and finally they come into their late bloomers, and they're finally done start winning their matches or whatever. Maybe their diet has gotten better. Maybe their exercises has gotten better. Their training with their coaches. Maybe they got a better coach. Those things like that can happen out of obscurity and upset a champion who's been consistent throughout their whole career, like Federer. He's been pretty much consistent throughout his whole career. His serve wasn't that great. It was average to at the most. And then it started to get better, as he started to win, because he had to have a variety of game, because he wasn't dependent just on his serve. Now Serena, you look at Serena in the women's, Serena has an amazing serve. She's always had a good serve. It just got better. And she almost like has perfected it. I've seen her at times pop aces on people, like out of you just can't do that unless you've worked at it for years. It's just incredible the strength that she has as a female, but she also does strength training. So yeah, she's gotten bigger over the years because of strength training. Because they're vegans, I believe. I think they're vegans. How do you get big being a vegan? Okay, eating vegetables all the time. But it just tells you the knack that they have, the talent that they have for playing this game. Now her sister Venus dealt with surrogates, African surgeons syndrome, or whatever it's called, some type of disease. No, it's not a disease. I guess it's called a disease. You can't get it, but it's genetic kind of disease that maybe runs in their genetics tree line, whatever. And it makes her tired. But I think she's got that under control. She takes medications for it. I don't know. Maybe some type of medication. Maybe her diet has changed too, because I know that if you're diabetes, you have to eat a certain way. If you don't, you can kill yourself. You can die. It's just that simple. I know people that my family has known that have died from that because they didn't choose to do what the doctor told them to do and ignored it. You're still drinking alcohol, but you're a diabetic. I mean, what sense does that make? It don't make no sense at all. People, so you deserve the consequences. It's just that simple. I know it sounds cold, it sounds morbid, but it's true. Now, getting back to tennis, Serena wins her 23rd Grand Slam. Incredible, Now she's only one title away from tying Margaret Court, who I never even knew she exists, because everybody kept talking about Steffi Graf with 22. And I watched tennis for a long time. Maybe they did mention Margaret Court. I didn't know who she was until they said she had won like 24 titles. Now, you're talking about weak era. How about that? That was years and years and years ago. Weak era. But because Serena's black, she's a black female dominating in a pool that's dominated by white players, she gets the bad end of the stick. Okay? Now, no, she don't look like a Layla Ali. Layla Ali is gorgeous. Serena is more like a, I don't even want to say like a number. But to me, I mean, sometimes she looks okay. Then other times she looks, kind of like, like she could beat me up. And I'm 6'1", over 240 pounds. So I'm a big guy. But I'm not huge. But what I'm saying is that, the Williams sisters get it naturally from their parents. I mean, but I think it's crazy how people talk about their looks, but I'm looking at their ability. I mean, it's just amazing what they can do. I saw Serena play Sarapova one time and come back from a five game. Okay, 5 game. She was 5 games behind in one set. There was I forget what set it was, the third or the second set. She was like 5 games behind Sarapova. This was I think she was in the Miami or the Indian Wells tournament, whatever the tournament it was. But I know it was somewhere in Miami. I think it was because I think they have residents. They own a home in Miami too. So it's like she was down 5 games to 1 or something like that. Came straight. I mean, it takes anybody else playing that game, you gotta totally be like, I'm done. But she had the mentality, the grit mentality to come back from that deficit and win. She won. I mean, how can you minimize that talent? I don't know about her agent, and yes, she has gotten endorsements. I think she played a girl named Coco in this tournament, the Australian tournament. No, Venus played her. But what I'm saying is, they already gave Coco this endorsement, like this commercial. They flashed a commercial up during the tournament. I saw it on TV, and it's like, what? Coco hasn't won anything. She's only 21 years old. Madison is one, and Madison is another American that's coming up. Madison Keys, if you never heard of her. Anybody that's following tennis and knows these players that I'm talking about, then they know who Madison Keys is. She's like my favorite right now because she has the mentality of a tennis player, and she has the right mentality to be a champion. Sloane needs to work on that mentality because she's like Kyrgios or that guy from Australia. She doesn't like tennis, but she's playing it and she enjoys the lifestyle of it. Okay? But she has talent. But her mentality's not there. 20%. I'm telling you, 20%. And strategy. Strategy is not there. They're still young. I think she's 21 just like Madison. But Madison is a big gun. She's young. These are the young guns that's coming up. You got to have that mentality. Sometimes they're late bloomers. Sometimes they're prodigies, like the Williams sisters. They were prodigies. They were being talked about when they were juniors. And that these sisters were playing tennis at the same level at that one time. And then Venus was the stronger player early on in the career. And then finally, Serena's game picked up even more. And she just surpassed her sister. So I would have never called it because I always thought Venus would be the one on top of her sister. But I was wrong. Serena's the one. And like my sister said, she's shaped like a damn bumblebee, but yet she can play like them girls that are lean and like Madison's lean. Sloane's pretty lean. Some of the European girls are lean. Some of them aren't though. Some of them are kind of thick themselves. But yeah. And then don't let me not talk about some of them. Some of them European girls too look kind of manly. I think the one Italian girl, there was this one Italian girl. God, she looked like a boy. I forget her name. She had her hair cut short, real cut short. In fact, Dad had to talk about Navratilova when she was playing. My dad, he was like, "Is that a man?" Because she was so muscular. Like when they start, women who are athletes like that, they get into the sports, different sports, and they start building muscle. Some of them can look kind of manly when they do. Now Navratilova doesn't lift like she did when she was playing later on in her career. Now, because she was really muscular. Early on in her career, she wasn't like that. But later on in her career, she was. She was a little more cut and muscular. I don't really like women with a whole lot of muscle. But she wasn't bulky. It was just lean muscle, really. But yeah, I mean, Dad was like, is she a guy? So for white people to get all up on Serena and talk about she look like a dude, which sometimes she does look kind of like, she's had pictures and snapshots, but she ain't gonna be no beauty queen. She not there trying to be a beauty queen. But it's just racist remarks, by old whitey out there making racist remarks. I mean, dude, your people aren't there's some women out there that look straight dudish too. Check the MMA, UFC. Some of them bitches out there look like dudes. I mean, come on, man. It's funny how some whites make these racist statements on the internet because they can hide behind a keyboard, but wouldn't dare say that shit in your face if you were face to face, because they know they get the fuck knocked out pretty much. They run up on the wrong dude and get knocked the fuck out, really. Or put two up in them or something. I don't know. But, it's ridiculous. Some of these people out here on the internet. It's crazy. Just give respect where it's respect. Talk with some sense of intelligence and say, look, you know what? This is what I don't like about the Williams sisters. I ain't talking about their looks or anything like that. You don't have to go to bed with them. I don't know why the fuck you worried about it. People are stupid sometimes. But I love tennis. I've always loved it. And when the Williams sisters are gone, I'm going to still watch it. I think blacks should get into the game of tennis, but they don't get into it because it's a challenge, because it's really still a rich man's sport, kind of. But it was the Williams sisters' fathers that made the sacrifice for them to get into it. Because see, if you've ever bought a racket and you've never looked at them rackets, them rackets are expensive. They're not as expensive as golf clubs, but they're expensive. But so the average black can get a basketball or a football and go out in the neighborhood and play basketball. Is cheap. Find the nearest playground and cheap is play. Tennis rackets are a little bit harder to come by. And then you got to actually learn how to maneuver your racket and hit the ball across the net. And then you got to get into tournaments. So it's a little harder for, I can see why blacks don't get into it. But I would like to see more black Americans in it. Now, the reason I follow women's tennis more thoroughly than men, because there are a lot of black females that are playing tennis. There are a lot more because of the Williams sisters, I have my theories about Arthur Ashe being dying from AIDS, but I'm not going to say nothing. That's why we don't got a lot of black. There are black, like Donald Young. He's a black American that plays tennis, but he's a decent tennis player, but he doesn't, I don't know what's going on with that. Because people have, like Justine Henin, she retired early. Incredible. I loved her tennis game. She retired early, but she had personal problems going on, so she retired. The one girl, I can't think of her name. Somebody maybe can post it down in the comments, but that got stabbed, she retired, because of that incident. So there's different things that come up in people's lives. There's another tennis player, I can't even think of her name. She got pregnant, so she wasn't even playing this tournament, and she probably won't play for another year because she pregnant, and then you're gonna have a newborn child. So what I'm saying is, if you're not dedicated, Federer said it in one of his interviews. I saw him. He said, it all depends on how they maneuver in their young part of their career. He says he was focused. I mean, he was not like partying all the time, going out and doing things. He was dedicated to his tennis. And, he's rewarded for that now. He's like one of the highest paid athletes along with Mayweather. And some people didn't know who that guy was. It's like, who is Roger Federer? Well, you don't watch tennis. That's why you don't know who Roger Federer is. Well, you don't follow it. He's a legend. He's one of the greatest tennis players to ever grace the court in our era. And he won today. He beat Nadal, which was incredible. It was an incredible match. If you haven't seen that match, watch it. That's real high tennis. Incredible shots, backhand. He has the most fluid backhand in the game. One of the most fluid. I didn't say he was the most fluid backhand tennis player. I said one of the most fluid. So for people to get all, they selectively hear what they want to hear. I said one of the most fluidity backhands in the game, and he can place it like his forehand. So, that's all I'm saying. Um, something just popped up on my on my phone. That's why I was wondering what. That's why I paused for a moment to figure out what was going on. Somebody responded to a comment of mine that I said. So anyway, yeah, I mean, he has a great backhand, and he played Nadal, who has a great forehand and has speed. But Nadal, physical things can happen. Like Nadal's had knee injuries, he had back injuries. Federer, the same thing. He's had back injuries. He recently had a knee injury because and he was just coming off of 6 months, no real tennis. So it was like, and then he played a few tournaments right before, one or two tournaments right before the Australian Open, but he was back in form again. It doesn't take long for that muscle memory to come back in form for a guy who's been so thorough throughout his tennis career. And to say that he hasn't played any great players is redundant. Just fucking redundant. Ask any true commentator of the tennis, of pro tennis, who played pro tennis themselves, that this is crazy. Crazy talk that people are talking about. This is why I'm making this video. Because people will say some dumb shit on the internet. They may be partially right, but they're not 100% right. And I never claim to be 100% right. But I do see things, and I do love the sport, and I do believe that the mentality of the sport depends on your physicalness, your diet, the way you handle your personal business and your personal life, all that, and your dedication to the game. And I believe that it takes time. If you're going to be a player that's not dedicated to the game, but you just like the style to play, like the one Australian dude, I can't pronounce his name. I'm going to butcher it every time I talk about it because I've heard it pronounced, but I don't remember it all the time. Because I don't really care for him. There's a lot of male, I can name all people that I like right now. I mean, I like Nadal, I like Federer, I like Djokovic's style of play, Murray, I like the one French guy. He looked kind of like Muhammad Ali. He's a good player. I can't think of his name. Damn it. Monfils. I like him, but he's a jester on the court. Get it? He's a jester on the court. He's not real serious about it. He plays enough to make a living off of it. I mean, he hasn't won one single title at all. He has the ability. He has the skill. He makes incredible shots. He has a great game, but he doesn't. He just is a jester on the court. He likes to, he doesn't take it to that serious point. I could be totally off, but that's how I see it. He's been playing for so long. Why hasn't he gotten a title? Men's tennis is very competitive because they play 5 sets compared to the women who only play 3. But hey, regardless, you put yourself mind to it, you can achieve it. Even once. Stan Wawrinka was a late bloomer. He's another Swiss like Federer. He was a late bloomer. I like Stan. I'll never forget when he knocked off Nadal a few years back, right in the finals or right before the finals. I forget if it was before or in the finals. But he knocked off Nadal. Nadal had some back issues during that time, though. And Nadal lost to Stan. And that was the awakening of Stan Wawrinka, who's a great tennis player. But he lost against Federer here in the Australian Open, which I knew because the genius of Federer and his rest time. I think Federer needed his rest time. And the fact that he had that knee injury probably was a blessing in the sky for him. So anyway, he got his 18th title. He won that match. It went down to 5 sets. I knew it was going to go down to 5 sets. It was a tight game. I've seen tighter. In fact, the best one above that one, you look up the one Federer playing Djokovic in the final at Wimbledon. That was an incredible game too. Federer against Djokovic. And Djokovic didn't look like himself in this tournament. That's why he got knocked out early. I don't know what was going on with him. Like I said, personal things can happen with tennis players that we don't even see behind the scenes, off the court, beyond the cameras, whatever. That can cause, that can mess, that can mess with their career, because financial issues, whatever the case may be, agents, coaches, whatever the case may be, can play into that. But if once everything is settled and good, I mean, they should be focused on their game. They shouldn't have to worry too much about everything else. But we don't know that because they don't really take us into the inside deal of tennis. I mean, they did a movie, Any Given Sunday, right? So now you get a gist of like what could go on behind closed doors in the NFL on the team, NFL team. Basketball probably the same way. That's why I was wondering about that girl. I know I'm all over the place with this, but Coco, how she got that commercial endorsement. Now maybe she has a great sports agent that hooked her up because she didn't win anything. But America's racist like that. They're fucking racist like that. Coco is not ugly, but she's not beautiful. She ain't gonna be no U.S. Beauty queen either. A lot of these girls that play sports, if they happen to be somewhat decent looking, that play sports, they're not gonna be they're not. That's why they're playing sports, because they're not gonna be no beauty queen. But because she's blonde, and she beat this one, she knocked off the number one player, I believe. Yeah, I believe she beat Kerber. At the time, the German girl. And so now all of a sudden she had the commercial. I was like, but how the fuck did she even get a commercial? She has, and Serena has like 20 something, barely probably had to fight to get endorsements. Her agent probably had to fight to get it. Well, can she pull off advertising? See, they don't think we're sellable. The white media market doesn't think a black face for their product can sell a product to their white audience. That's the whole problem with America. Or they don't think maybe an Asian, or maybe an Asian because they're white skinned it, but not a black face or a dark skin, or a Latin person who might be dark skinned, who might look black but they're Latin. It's racist America, man. Now look what Donald Trump is doing. I said Donald. I said the bad word. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say Donald. Donald fucking Trump. I would never call him my president. But anyway, I didn't mean to even go off into that because I'm talking about tennis. But you see what's going on, right? He's signing these executive orders. I don't even know what are these executive orders. Explain to the people of the United States of America what these executive orders are, because we don't know what they are. And what is he signing? He is a puppet too, just like Obama. He got these men around him, and now he's signing these orders. Donald Trump was not a reader. Now, President Obama was a reader, and he read. He had to. He was a lawyer, a professional. He taught law, so he had to read. Donald Trump don't read. He even said he don't like to read. What does he read? So did he even read it? Which I doubt. He probably had the guy read to him. And does he ever comprehend and understand what the hell he's signing? He is the mouthpiece. I don't want to get into this because I was talking about tennis. But there's a lot of stuff going on. I follow politics. I started following politics a lot. Kind of when I went to college, and then I stopped a little bit, and then I started picking it back it up again, because I didn't follow the Clinton administration that well. Then I picked it up again. I started watching it when 9/11 happened. I started following politics real close again when I joined the military, and I went to Iraq, did 2 tours there. Thank you very much for my service. You're welcome. So I'm very adamant about my service, and I'm very adamant about America. So that's what I'm saying. So if you stuck around and listened to my 35-minute rant, and I didn't mean to go off into that subject, thanks. All I'm saying is I love tennis, and let's be analytical about it and not racist about it. Peace out.